ambient occlusion map is going to burn in the shadows from the areas that are occluded or that the light can't hit as much. And that's going to give our model kind of a more fuller or volumetric feel to it. The first thing I need to do is I need to delete the lights that are already in the scene. And at this point I just have one direct light. And you can see now I only have the plane and the cylinder. We also need a ground plane, and that's going to make it so around the base of our object we catch some shadows bouncing up from the base. So we've got everything that we need to start with in here. And we'll zoom in here a little bit closer. Okay, we're going to make a skylight, which is under Create Skylight and Light Skylight, sorry about that. And we just put it anywhere really in the scene. It doesn't matter where it is. It's just an icon that tells us now global illumination is active in the scene. And our skylight won't work until we go under Rendering, Advanced Lighting, Light Tracer. It needs to be active, which it is as soon as this window opens. And at this point we can just close the window and it's active. If I go ahead and render it at this point, we're going to get a different looking render than what we've seen in the past. And when it hits this object and starts calculating how to render it, it's going to be a much more even type of lighting. And areas such as around this rim here are going to end up with a little outline look or shadow around them where that light is being trapped. And that's what our ambient occlusion map will do for us. It's going to kind of burn that lighting in. And what we're eventually going to do here, and the render will take a little bit longer, is we're going to capture the lighting that we just created with this ambient occlusion, and then we'll apply it to our model, then delete the skylight and all lighting, and we'll have that light built into our model. I'm going to let this render all the way through so we can see what it is we're going to end up with. Alright, we're almost done. You can see that there's no shadows on the back side. There's no direct lighting type in here. It's lighting from all directions, and that's what's giving us those nice soft shadows. Okay, and that's, you're getting the idea of what it is that we'll end up with here when we're all done. Okay, there's our barrel. Now we're going to capture that light. Turn that off. I'm going to click on the barrel and then go to Rendering, Render to Texture, or you can just hit 0. And what it'll do, it'll take a second to load here. But I should see the name of my prop right here. In this case it's cylinder. I'm going to tell it to save this to my desktop. Scroll down here a little bit further. No other changes needed. Right now I want to use existing channel. You'll need to probably change that from automatic unwrap. This will use the UVs that we have, so we have to use that. And then I'm going to hit Add, and I want a lighting map. I'm going to put it in the self-illumination channel of my object, and I need to select the map size. Usually it's the same size as what your prop is or smaller. And that should do everything that else I need. I'm going to output it into source here too. And then I'm going to, before I start, I'm going to drag a gray shader over to my barrel. And what that's going to help with is when it's rendering this, we're going to see it in grayscale instead of color, and it's going to be more obvious what it's doing. And I'll go ahead and render this. Ignore the red for a second. That's left over from the project I was doing before. And it'll take a second to get going. And there we go. And it's going to render this in gray, and what you'll see is the shadows from our skylight, or our global lighting, which is very similar to most ambient occlusion types, are going to be burned into our map. And we're going to end up with these very subtle shadows that add form to our object. Now this is going to take a little while to render through. At this point, I'm going to let this render and stop the video, and then I'll come back when it's done. Here's my map. You can see it's in grayscale. I've got nice soft shadows that are defining some of the more subtle forms in my map, like these beveled areas here. And I'm going to first make sure it's saved it. Save that to my desktop. Yeah, here we go. So it's one of these this one, lighting map. Okay, I'm going to close this, and I'm going to jump back over here. Now you can see that it saved it into the source file, which was this gray shader. Here it is. And it's saved it into the self-illumination slot. I'm going to drag this out and make this an instance. Go back to my map that had all my other information on it. Remember, this one is the one that has 3 of our 4 maps already made. I'm going to drag this ambient occlusion map now down here to self-illumination. And it can be an instance or a copy. At this point, it doesn't really matter. And you'll see that it's now in self-illumination. If I was to render this right now, it wouldn't look very good. I'm going to delete the skylight and go up under Rendering, Advanced Lighting, Light Tracer, and turn off the light tracer element. So now when I render this, there's no light in this scene that's generated by a light source. But if I render it, you'll see that it looks lit, and we've now burned those shadows into our prop, and that's the last of the 4 map types. So we've added a diffuse map, specular map, normal map, and an ambient occlusion map to our model. Our shader looks like this. Everything's in place. And if we were to jump over to Photoshop here, we'll open all 4 of those. There we go. Let's open up first this one. Here's our lighting map. Our specular map. Our diffuse map. And our normal map. So there's all 4 of our map types. And with all 4 of those map types now that you know how to do, you can pretty much get your objects mapped and ready to go